Welcome back. What if one of the old wheat pennies you have at home could be worth far more than its 1 cent face value? Before you spend another penny, take a close look at your collection, because today we are examining 5 historic Lincoln wheat pennies that are roughly 68 to 87 years old. These coins may look ordinary at first, but collectors know that small details can sometimes make a tremendous difference. The date, mint mark, strike quality, condition, surface preservation, rare varieties, and overall eye appeal can all influence collector demand and market value. And here is the exciting question. Could one exceptional wheat penny reach a value associated with a $9 million headline? That kind of figure should never be assumed for an ordinary circulated coin, but extraordinary certified rarities and exceptional auction pieces can create astonishing numbers in the world of numismatics. Let's get started. First up, the 1939 Lincoln wheat penny is a fascinating piece of American numismatic history, and if you have one without a mint mark, you are looking at a Philadelphia minted Lincoln cent from an important period in the classic wheat penny series. The 1939 issue was produced in large numbers, with approximately 316.466 million struck at the Philadelphia Mint, but age, preservation, original color, sharp details, and exceptional grading can make individual examples much more desirable to collectors. When you find an old 1939 penny today, the first thing to remember is that its value is not determined simply by its age. Collectors examine the date, mint mark, surfaces, color, strike, remaining detail, and overall eye appeal. A 1939 Lincoln cent that has survived nearly 9 decades with attractive original surfaces can become a very interesting addition to a wheat penny collection, especially when it reaches higher certified grades. The history behind this coin makes it even more exciting. The Lincoln wheat cent was designed by Victor David Brenner and had already become one of the most recognizable American coins by 1939. On the obverse, the coin features the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse carries the 2 wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. The 1939 Philadelphia issue contains 95% copper with the remainder composed of tin and zinc, weighs about 3.11 grams, and has a diameter of approximately 19 millimeters. These details are important because they help identify an authentic 1939 wheat penny and distinguish it from later Lincoln cents. For collectors, the combination of historical design, original bronze composition, and the age of the coin gives this small 1 cent piece a special place in American coin collecting. One of the most important details to check is the absence of a mint mark. On a 1939 Lincoln wheat penny, no mint mark indicates that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. That does not automatically make every 1939 no mint mark penny extremely rare, but it is a crucial part of correctly identifying the coin. Collectors also compare Philadelphia pieces with the 1939D and 1939S issues from Denver and San Francisco. The real excitement begins when the no mint mark example has exceptional preservation. A coin that still shows strong Lincoln portrait details, clear lettering, defined wheat lines, and attractive original color can command considerably more attention than an ordinary worn example. This is why collectors often inspect every part of an old wheat penny instead of judging it only by its date. Condition is where the market can become especially interesting. A heavily circulated 1939 penny may have a relatively modest value, while a high-grade example can move into the tens or hundreds of dollars. Current market data illustrates this dramatic difference. Recent completed sales recorded 1939 Lincoln cents graded MS67 read at prices such as $84, $119, $139, and $159 during 2026, while another MS67 red example sold for $367 in May 2026. NGC's auction data also shows substantial activity for certified 1939 Philadelphia cents, with 1,189 recorded MS auction examples in its database, and an all-years average price of about $99.81 for the MS category. These figures demonstrate why grading and preservation matter so much. The same date can represent a small amount of money in circulated condition, but become a much more valuable collectible when it survives in extraordinary mint state condition. The biggest opportunity comes from exceptional examples rather than ordinary circulated coins. Current sales data show that top-end 1939 Lincoln cents can move far beyond the typical prices collectors see for circulated pieces. A 1939 Lincoln cent graded MS67 red by NGC sold for $125 at a Stack's Bowers auction in October 2024, while another MS67 red example sold for $145 in December 2024. Even more remarkable, a 1939 PCGS MS68 Plus red example reportedly reached $36,000 in a January 2025 auction, demonstrating how dramatically exceptional preservation can change the value of a classic wheat cent. This is exactly why serious collectors pay attention to coins that appear unusually sharp, lustrous, and well-preserved. A spectacular grade can transform an old 1-cent coin into a major numismatic collectible. When examining your own 1939 no-mint mark wheat penny, pay close attention to the Lincoln portrait and the areas most exposed to wear. Look for strong hair detail, a sharp jawline, clear lettering, and well-defined wheat ears on the reverse. Original reddish copper color can also be highly desirable in certified mint-state coins, while coins showing attractive red-brown or natural brown surfaces can still have collector appeal depending on grade and eye appeal. Avoid assuming that every shiny coin is valuable, because cleaning or artificial alteration can negatively affect collector interest. Instead, look for natural surfaces, original-looking luster, minimal marks, and strong overall preservation. If the coin appears unusually clean and detailed compared with other 1939 cents, professional authentication and grading may be worth considering, because certification can provide an objective grade and make the coin easier to evaluate in the collector market. So what could a 1939 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark be worth today? The answer depends heavily on condition. Current reference data places ordinary examples at only a modest premium, while higher grades can reach the hundreds of dollars, and truly exceptional certified examples can enter the thousands or potentially much higher in extraordinary circumstances. One current market guide lists approximately $6.28 for an ungraded example, around $7.90 in VF, about $45 in AU, and approximately $119.50 for MS67, while its calculated MS68 and higher figures rise dramatically. Another guide lists much lower values for typical circulated pieces, showing why condition and the exact market source matter. Therefore, if your 1939 no-mint mark penny is old and heavily worn, do not expect a four-figure price simply because of its date. But if you have an unusually well-preserved, original high-grade specimen, the story can be very different, with serious collector demand potentially pushing the value into the hundreds, or, for extraordinary certified pieces, the thousands of dollars. The 1939 Lincoln wheat penny remains an exciting coin to search for because it combines American history, a classic design, an early Philadelphia mint issue, and the possibility of significant value when exceptional preservation is present. The most important lesson is to never judge an old penny by appearance alone. Check the date carefully, confirm that there is no mint mark beneath the date, examine both sides under good lighting, and pay attention to the coin's original surfaces and remaining details. If your example looks unusually sharp for a coin from 1939, professional grading could reveal that you have something considerably more desirable than an ordinary old cent. And remember, market prices can change based on grade, certification, color designation, eye appeal, varieties, authenticity, and actual auction demand. The values discussed here are market references rather than guaranteed selling prices. So before spending, selling, or making a major valuation decision, compare your coin with recent certified auction results and consider professional authentication. A tiny 1939 penny may look ordinary at first glance, but the right combination of date, no mint mark, preservation, and exceptional grade is what can turn a historic 1-cent coin into a highly sought-after collector piece. Next up, the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny was struck at the Denver Mint during one of the most important periods in American history, and today it remains an interesting target for collectors who focus on early Lincoln cents, high-grade examples, red copper color, and unusual die varieties. The D mint mark identifies the Denver Mint, and the coin was produced in bronze with a weight of about 3.11 grams and a diameter of 19 millimeters. The Denver Mint struck 206,698,000 examples in 1942, so the date itself is not considered one of the rarest Lincoln cents. However, the story changes dramatically when you find an exceptionally preserved, sharply struck, original color example. Professional grading and auction records show that outstanding 1942 cents can command prices far above ordinary examples, with a documented PCGS auction record of $12,650 for an MS68 red example. The history behind this penny makes it even more fascinating. The 1942D cent was produced during the final years of the classic bronze Lincoln wheat penny era and during the enormous economic demands of World War II. America was mobilizing its industries, workers, transportation systems, and financial resources, and ordinary coins were moving through everyday commerce at an incredible rate. The Lincoln cent itself had already become an important part of American life since its introduction in 1909, carrying Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the wheatear reverse design that collectors now instantly recognize. The 1942D therefore represents both American numismatic history and a specific moment in the World War II era. Holding one today is like holding a small piece of that period, and when the coin has survived in truly uncirculated condition, its original surfaces can make it especially attractive to collectors building high-grade Lincoln cent collections. One of the most important features to inspect is the condition. When collectors describe a coin as uncirculated, they are looking for evidence that the piece avoided the normal wear associated with circulation. A strong 1942D Lincoln cent can show impressive detail in Lincoln's hair, cheek, jawline, coat, and the lettering on the obverse, while the reverse can retain strong wheatstalk detail, crisp lettering, and clear separation in the design. The original copper color is also extremely important. Professional grading services classify Lincoln cents by color as brown, or red, and a bright original red example can attract substantially more attention than a circulated or heavily toned specimen. PCGS specifically lists the 1942D in brown, and red categories, while its records show that the finest known examples can reach extraordinary grades, such as MS68RD. Another exciting feature of the 1942D issue is its mint mark and die variety history. The D beneath the date tells you that the coin was struck at Denver, but collectors do not always stop there. The 1942D Lincoln cent is known with repunched mint mark varieties, including recognized examples where the mint mark shows an additional impression. PCGS catalogs multiple 1942D repunch mint mark varieties, including F-502 and F-504, and NGC also recognizes distinct repunched mint mark varieties for the issue. These varieties can create an additional layer of collector interest because two coins carrying exactly the same date and mint mark can have different numismatic appeal depending on the die characteristics. A collector examining a promising 1942D should therefore look carefully at the mint mark area under magnification rather than assuming every D is identical. Now comes the part that makes the 1942D Lincoln wheat penny so exciting for today's collectors: value. An ordinary example is not automatically a hundreds or thousands of dollars coin simply because it is from 1942, but an exceptional uncirculated example can enter a completely different market. Current auction data provides a useful picture of that difference. Recent NGC auction records include MS67 red 1942D cents selling around $94 and $99 in 2026, while other certified MS67 examples have brought higher amounts depending on quality, certification, and auction circumstances. PCGS records also show an MS67 Plus red example selling for $665, while an MS66 red example sold for $46. These results demonstrate why grade, color, eye appeal, certification, and the exact individual coin can make a dramatic difference in the final selling price. At the highest end, the numbers become especially impressive. PCGS records a $12,650 auction result for an MS68 red 1942D Lincoln cent, making it a powerful example of what an extraordinary specimen can achieve in the collector market. This does not mean every uncirculated 1942D penny is worth thousands of dollars, but it proves that the finest quality examples can move far beyond ordinary coin values. For a YouTube viewer checking an old collection, the important point is to separate an ordinary circulated cent from a genuinely high-grade specimen. A coin with sharp details, original surfaces, strong luster, attractive red coloration, minimal marks, and professional certification can be much more desirable than an average coin of the same date. The collector demand for this coin comes from several directions at once. Lincoln cent collectors want strong examples for date and mint collections, wheat penny specialists search for attractive original pieces, variety collectors investigate repunched mint marks, and advanced collectors compete for top population coins. The 1942D may have had a large original mintage, but truly exceptional coins are a different matter. PCGS notes that the issue becomes more difficult in very high grades and lists MS68 red examples at the top of its condition census. This is where the concept of rarity becomes extremely important. A coin does not have to be rare in total mintage to become highly desirable in a particular grade and color. A common date in an extraordinary condition can become a serious collector coin, especially when certified examples are competing for advanced registry sets. So if you have a 1942D Lincoln Wheat Penny in what appears to be very uncirculated condition, do not judge it only by its 1 cent face value. Examine the surfaces, check the date and Denver D mint mark, study the strike, look for original copper color, and pay close attention to unusual mint mark characteristics. If the coin appears genuinely uncirculated, and especially if it has strong red coloration and exceptional preservation, professional authentication and grading can be worth considering because the market data shows that certified high-grade examples can range from modest premiums into hundreds, or at the very top, thousands of dollars. The documented $12,650 MS68 RD auction record demonstrates just how far an exceptional 1942D can rise. The 1942D Lincoln Wheat Penny is therefore a fascinating reminder that the true value of an old coin is not determined by its face value alone. Its historical connection to wartime America, classic wheat reverse design, Denver mint identity, possible repunch mint mark varieties, preservation, color, grade, and collector demand all contribute to its modern appeal. If your example has survived in remarkable uncirculated condition, it deserves a closer look before you spend it, or place it back into an ordinary coin jar. The biggest opportunities in the hobby often begin with careful examination of small details, and the 1942D Lincoln cent is a perfect example of why collectors continue searching old collections for exceptional pieces. Remember that market values can change according to grade, certification, color designation, variety, eye appeal, and actual auction results, so the impressive prices discussed here should be viewed as market examples rather than a guarantee that every 1942D penny will sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars next up. The fascinating connection to the years immediately following World War II. The 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and the absence of a mint mark is exactly what collectors expect from this Philadelphia issue. Nearly 992 million examples were produced, making it an important and widely collected part of the Wheat Penny series. What makes the coin exciting for collectors today is not simply the date, but the combination of age, original surfaces, sharp details, attractive color, exceptional preservation, and any unusual characteristics that may separate one example from another. A 1946 penny that has survived roughly 8 decades with strong detail can become much more interesting to collectors, especially when it presents itself in a very fine or better condition. In the world of coin collecting, every surviving coin tells a story, and this one comes from an especially important period in American history. The story of the 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny begins during the transition from wartime America into the post-war era. The Lincoln cent continued to feature Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, while the reverse displayed the classic wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. This familiar design had already become one of the most recognizable American coin designs ever produced. The 1946 issue is particularly interesting because the U.S. Mint was still dealing with the effects of wartime material changes. According to NGC, the mints continued omitting tin from the cent alloy in 1946 because normal supplies had not yet fully resumed after the war. That gives this little 1 cent coin an additional historical connection to America's transition from wartime production back toward normal peacetime manufacturing. When collectors hold a 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny today, they are not simply looking at an old coin. They are looking at a small piece of the immediate post-World War II period, when the country was changing rapidly and everyday American commerce was returning to a new normal. One of the most important features to examine on a 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny is the absence of a mint mark. On this particular issue, no mint mark means Philadelphia, so the blank area beneath the date is not automatically an error or a missing piece of the design. That detail is extremely important when evaluating the coin, because beginners sometimes assume that every old penny without a mint mark must be rare. The real attraction comes from the complete combination of characteristics. The coin weighs about 3.11 grams, measures approximately 19 millimeters across, and has a plain edge. Collectors should pay close attention to the date, the large Lincoln portrait, the lettering, the wheat ears, and the overall sharpness of the design. Another fascinating visual characteristic of 1946 Lincoln cents is the broad, distinctive numeral 4 in the date, a feature noted for the 1946 issues. On a well-preserved example, strong lettering and clear wheat lines can make the coin especially attractive. These small details are precisely what experienced collectors examine when deciding whether an old penny deserves a closer look. Condition is where the conversation becomes especially interesting. A 1946 Lincoln wheat penny in very fine condition has experienced considerable circulation, yet it can still retain substantial design detail. Collectors generally look for a recognizable Lincoln portrait, strong lettering, visible wheat ears, and a pleasing overall appearance. The difference between an ordinary circulated coin and a particularly attractive collector-quality example can be significant. Surface preservation, color, strike quality, scratches, marks, and remaining detail all influence how the coin is judged. As a coin moves from circulated grades into about uncirculated and mint-state territory, collector attention can increase dramatically, particularly when the coin has attractive original color and strong eye appeal. NGC's current data shows that certified populations are concentrated in lower mint-state grades, while the population drops sharply at the very highest red grades, demonstrating why exceptional preservation becomes increasingly important as grade rises. For anyone searching through an old collection, the best approach is to examine every 1946 no-mint mark penny carefully rather than judging it only by its age. When it comes to market value, the 1946 Philadelphia Lincoln wheat penny is a perfect example of why condition and certification matter. Current NGC guide data places ordinary examples at modest values, with the listed values increasing as the grade rises, while exceptional certified examples can command substantially stronger prices. NGC's auction data also shows that higher-grade certified 1946 examples have reached meaningful collector prices, including an MS63 red-brown example recorded at $14, while its broader auction statistics show considerably higher averages for the specialized certified MS market, because those results include stronger grades and premium examples. This is why it is important not to attach one fixed dollar amount to every 1946 penny. A normal very fine example should be evaluated differently from an exceptionally preserved, professionally graded mint-state coin. The exciting possibility for collectors comes when a coin has the right combination of high grade, attractive color, strong strike, clean surfaces, and certification. In those upper-quality categories, the market can move from ordinary coin values into hundreds of dollars, and for truly exceptional pieces or special circumstances, potentially much higher territory. The collector demand for the 1946 Lincoln wheat penny also comes from the popularity of the entire Lincoln wheat cent series. Wheat cents are among the most recognizable and widely collected American coins, and the 1946 issue sits at an important point in the series because it represents the early post-war years. Collectors building complete date and mintmark collections need the Philadelphia 1946 issue, while specialists may pursue the finest certified examples available. This creates several different levels of demand. One collector may want a pleasing circulated coin for a collection, another may want a sharply detailed very fine or extremely fine specimen, and another may compete for a high-grade red mint state example. NGCS census information demonstrates that certified examples exist across a range of grades, with relatively few pieces represented at the highest levels. That separation between ordinary survivors and elite quality examples is what makes condition such a powerful factor in the market. A coin does not need to be famous for having a gigantic mintage to become interesting. Sometimes the real collecting challenge is finding an example that has survived in unusually impressive condition. If you are examining a 1946 Lincoln wheat penny today, pay particular attention to the surfaces and the overall quality before thinking about its dollar value. Use good lighting and inspect both sides carefully. Look at Lincoln's hair and facial details, the lettering around the portrait, the date, and especially the wheat stalks on the reverse. Check whether the surfaces retain pleasing original color and whether there are distracting marks, scratches, or environmental damage. Most importantly, remember that the lack of a mint mark on a 1946 cent is normal for Philadelphia and is part of the coin's identity rather than proof of an error. The strongest potential comes from coins that combine attractive appearance with strong preservation, and when appropriate, professional authentication and grading. A coin that looks ordinary in a large group can sometimes stand out once its condition is compared carefully with other examples. That is why collectors continue examining old wheat pennies decades after they were first placed into circulation. The 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark is therefore much more than an old 1-cent coin. It is a historic post-war American cent, a Philadelphia mint issue with a massive original production of 991,655,000 pieces, and a fascinating collectible whose value can change dramatically according to grade, preservation, color, certification, and overall eye appeal. If your example is described as very fine, it already has the advantage of retaining meaningful design detail after decades of circulation, and it deserves a careful examination rather than being dismissed as ordinary pocket change. The greatest excitement comes when a collector discovers an unusually attractive example with superior preservation or an even higher grade. That is where the journey from a simple 1-cent piece to a serious collectible becomes possible. So before you spend, trade, or set aside that old 1946 wheat penny, take a close look at every detail. The coin market rewards quality, and the right combination of date, condition, appearance, authenticity, and collector demand can make an old Lincoln cent far more interesting than its original 1-cent denomination suggests. Values mentioned here are market guide and auction reference information, not guaranteed selling prices. Actual value depends on the individual coin and current market conditions. Next up. This classic American cent was struck at the Denver Mint during an important period in U.S. history, and today it remains a popular collectible among Lincoln cent enthusiasts. The 1952 D carries the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the 2 wheat ears on the reverse, while the small d beneath the date identifies Denver as its minting location. Denver produced 746,130,000 examples in 1952, making this a major issue of the wheat cent series. Yet the real collecting story begins when you examine the individual coin's preservation, color, strike, surfaces, and overall eye appeal. The history behind the 1952 D wheat penny makes it especially interesting for collectors who appreciate coins connected to mid-century America. The Lincoln wheat cent had already been circulating for more than 4 decades by 1952. Having been introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Victor David Brenner's Lincoln portrait had become one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage, while the reverse wheat design represented agriculture and prosperity. By 1952, the United States was experiencing a period of major economic and industrial development, and millions of Lincoln cents were moving through stores, banks, businesses, and households every day. A coin surviving from that environment for more than 7 decades gives collectors a tangible connection to American history. The 1952 D is therefore not simply a 1-cent denomination, it is a surviving piece of the final decade of the wheat cent era, which ended in 1958. One of the first things collectors should examine is the famous Denver D mint mark. On the 1952 D Lincoln wheat penny, the mint mark appears beneath the date on the obverse, and this tiny letter is what separates the Denver issue from the Philadelphia and San Francisco versions of the same year. The coin itself has a diameter of approximately 19 millimeters and weighs about 3.11 grams, with a traditional bronze composition of roughly 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. The obverse features Lincoln facing right, while the reverse displays the United States of America inscription, 1-cent denomination, EPLURBUSUNUM, and the 2 wheat ears surrounding the central lettering. These details give the coin its unmistakable wheat penny identity and provide several areas collectors can inspect when determining quality and desirability. Condition is where the collecting conversation becomes especially exciting. A 1952 D described as being in very good condition can still be an attractive historical coin, particularly when Lincoln's major design elements remain clearly visible and the reverse retains recognizable wheat details. Collectors examine the amount of wear on Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, coat, lettering, date, and mint mark, while the reverse is checked for the clarity of the wheat ears and lettering. A well-preserved example with pleasing surfaces, strong details, and attractive natural color can stand out from ordinary heavily circulated pieces. As preservation improves, the coin moves into fine, very fine, extremely fine, about uncirculated and ultimately mint state grades, where collectors become increasingly selective about marks, luster, strike quality, and original color. The strongest examples can command substantially more attention than ordinary circulated pieces. The 1952 D is an excellent example of why rarity and condition must be considered together. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these cents, so the date itself is not considered a major rarity in circulated grades. But collectors do not judge every surviving coin in exactly the same way. A coin with exceptional preservation, attractive original red color, a sharp strike, clean surfaces, or a desirable certified grade can become far more interesting than a typical example. This is particularly important in the highest mint state levels, where even small differences in quality can create large differences in collector demand. Current market references show that ordinary 1952D examples are generally inexpensive, while high-grade red specimens can reach significantly higher levels. APMEX, for example, currently lists a 1952D RD at about $2 in M-60, $7 in M-63, $12 in M-64, $22 in M-65, $30 in M-66, and about $285 in M-67, illustrating how dramatically grade can influence value. Now let's talk about the dollar value, because this is where many viewers become interested. Current reference prices do not support the idea that an ordinary very good 1952D automatically sells for hundreds or thousands of dollars. Standard market guides place circulated examples at modest premiums, while stronger uncirculated examples can move into several dollars, tens of dollars, and in exceptional certified grades into the hundreds. One current guide lists the 1952D at roughly $0.15 to $0.90 in circulated grades, and approximately $1 to $260 in uncirculated condition, depending heavily on the exact grade and quality. Another current source shows certified red examples reaching approximately $285 at M-67. These numbers demonstrate the exciting upside of finding an unusually well-preserved specimen, but the actual selling price of any particular coin depends on authentication, grading, color designation, eye appeal, market demand, and the specific auction or dealer transaction. Another fascinating possibility is variety attribution. Collectors sometimes examine 1952D cents for unusual mint mark characteristics, doubled details, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, or other mint-made errors. A genuine and significant error or variety can make a coin considerably more interesting than a normal example, because collectors may specifically seek that variety for their collections. This is why examining the tiny details around the date, mint mark, lettering, and design can be worthwhile. If you believe your 1952D has an unusual feature, avoid cleaning or polishing it, because original surfaces are extremely important to collectors. Instead, compare the coin carefully with trusted references, and for a potentially significant variety or high-grade specimen, consider professional authentication and grading. The combination of a recognizable date, Denver mint mark, unusual variety, and exceptional preservation can create a much stronger collector story. So if you discover a 1952D Lincoln Wheat Penny, do not simply throw it into a jar and forget about it. Look closely at the date, confirm the D mint mark, study Lincoln's portrait, inspect the wheat ears, and pay attention to the coin's color, surfaces, strike, and overall preservation. The 1952D may have been produced in large numbers, but every surviving specimen has its own condition history, and the finest examples are the ones that can attract serious collector attention. For an ordinary very good example, the realistic market value is generally modest rather than hundreds or thousands of dollars. However, exceptionally high-grade, certified, attractive, or unusual examples can reach much stronger values, with current references showing the upper end of the market extending into the hundreds. That is exactly why the 1952D remains a fascinating coin to search for. A tiny 1-cent piece from 1952 can carry decades of American history, and the right combination of quality and rarity can make an otherwise familiar wheat penny much more desirable in today's collector market. Important value note: coin values change with grade, certification, color designation, strike quality, surface preservation, varieties or errors, authenticity, and actual auction results. The dollar amounts discussed here are current reference market examples, not a guarantee that every 1952D Lincoln Wheat Penny will sell for those prices. Exceptional values generally apply to specifically graded, certified, high-quality, or otherwise special examples. Next up, the Denver Mint produced 800,953,300 examples of the 1958D cent, so the date itself is not rare in ordinary circulated grades, but the story becomes much more exciting when you find an example with outstanding preservation, brilliant original surfaces, strong details, and an attractive red color designation. NGC identifies the coin as a bronze Lincoln cent weighing 3.11 grams and measuring 19 millimeters. with Victor David Brenner's famous Lincoln portrait on the obverse and the wheat ears reverse on the back. For collectors, that combination of historical importance and exceptional condition is exactly what can turn an ordinary-looking penny into a highly desirable piece of the final chapter of the wheat cent era. The history behind the 1958 Lincoln wheat penny makes this coin even more fascinating. The Lincoln cent had been part of American life since 1909, and for almost half a century, the wheat reverse represented one of the most recognizable designs in United States coinage. By 1958, the design was approaching the end of its remarkable run, and the following year the reverse would be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design. That means a 1958 wheat penny is not simply another coin from the 1950s. It represents the closing year of an iconic American coin series. The Denver Mint struck more than 800 million cents that year, making the 1958 an important issue for date-and mint collectors. When you hold a brilliant example today, you are looking at a genuine survivor from the final production year of one of America's most famous coin designs. That historical connection gives the 1958 a powerful appeal, especially for collectors who want their Lincoln wheat cent collection to finish with a coin that represents the end of an era. One of the most important things to examine on this coin is the famous D Mint mark beneath the date on the obverse. That small letter identifies the Denver Mint and immediately separates this issue from the Philadelphia 1958 cent. Collectors also pay close attention to the overall strike, Lincoln's hair and facial details, the lettering, the date, and especially the wheat ears and lettering on the reverse. On a truly brilliant example, the surfaces can remain remarkably attractive, with strong luster and details that have survived decades of handling without losing their original visual character. The color designation can also become extremely important. A brown example, a red-brown example, and a full red example can occupy very different positions in the collector market. NGC's current catalog information specifically tracks the 1958 across these color designations and grades, showing how condition and preservation can dramatically influence the market level. Now comes the part that makes collectors look twice: condition. When someone describes a 1958 Lincoln wheat penny as very brilliant, the real question is whether that brilliance represents genuine original mint luster and exceptional preservation. A coin with bright, attractive surfaces, sharp design details, minimal marks, strong strike quality, and original red coloration can become far more interesting than a typical circulated example. The highest levels of the market are not created simply because a coin is old. They are created when age is combined with extraordinary preservation, certification, eye appeal, and scarcity at the top grades. NGC's population and auction information shows why the upper end deserves special attention. Its data for the 1958 includes auction activity concentrated around high mint state grades, and the one-year auction average shown in its current auction data is $698.45 for the MS category, with an all-years average of $89.71. This demonstrates that exceptional mint state examples can command dramatically stronger prices than ordinary pieces. The dollar value of a 1958 wheat penny, therefore, depends heavily on exactly what you have. NGC's published guide for the issue shows modest values through many ordinary mint state levels, while the upper grades rise substantially, with the listed RD guide reaching $250 at MS66 and $2,600 at MS67. Those numbers are especially important for anyone examining a brilliant 1958 because they show how quickly the market can change when a coin moves into the finest certified grades. A visually beautiful penny may attract attention, but professional grading is what can establish whether it truly belongs in an elite condition category. This is why a collector should examine the coin carefully under good lighting, protect the surfaces from fingerprints and scratches, and consider professional authentication and grading when the coin appears exceptionally preserved. Another fascinating feature of the 1958 issue is the existence of repunched mintmark varieties. NGC notes that numerous repunched mintmark varieties are known for the 1958 cent, although many are considered minor varieties. For a collector, however, that detail adds another exciting layer to the search. The tiny D beneath the date should not be ignored. Magnification can reveal details that are difficult to see with the naked eye, and a collector who recognizes a significant variety may have a much more interesting coin than initially expected. The combination of a final year wheat penny, Denver mint mark, brilliant preservation, strong original color, and a desirable variety is exactly the kind of combination that can create serious collector interest. This is why every 1958D deserves a careful examination before it is dismissed as simply another old penny. The 1958D also demonstrates an important truth about the coin market. Rarity is often about condition rarity rather than simply how many coins were originally produced. More than 800 million 1958D cents were struck, so the date is widely known and available in ordinary grades. But collectors searching for superb examples with exceptional red color and very high certified grades are competing for a much smaller population. NGC's auction statistics show more than 1,000 recorded auction examples in its MS category, while the finest quality pieces occupy a much narrower part of the market. This is where the excitement comes from. The coin sitting in front of you may have a 1 cent face value, but if it possesses the right combination of grade, color, strike, surfaces, variety, and certification, its collector value can move into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Exceptional auction results should always be understood as applying to exceptional individual coins rather than every 1958D penny. So if you discover a 1958D Lincoln Wheat penny that looks unusually brilliant, clean, sharp, and original, do not overlook it. Look closely at the date, confirm the D-Mint mark, inspect Lincoln's portrait and the wheat reverse, study the color and luster, and search carefully for unusual mint mark characteristics. A normal example may have only a small premium, but an extraordinary certified example can enter a completely different level of collector demand. The 1958D is especially exciting because it closes the long-running wheat reverse era, carries the history of the Denver Mint, and offers collectors the possibility of finding a top-quality survivor from the final year. Current guide and auction information confirms that high-grade examples can reach hundreds of dollars, and, at the very top of the documented guide range, thousands of dollars. Remember that market prices change with grade, certification, color designation, variety, eye appeal, and actual auction results, so the figures discussed here are reference market examples rather than a guarantee for every 1958D cent. But if your coin truly has exceptional brilliant preservation, this is absolutely a wheat penny worth examining closely and researching before you ever assume that its 1 cent denomination tells the whole story. Thanks for watching.